The St. Andrew's Rectory has been a pillar of the community since it was built in the 1850s, and we are glad that we can continue to serve St. Andrew's residents with showcasing beautiful local art and artists. Make sure to check out the other community events held at the St. Andrew's Heritage Centre and Rectory, and now, enjoy the rest of the art show.
I came to Canada in 1993, lived in Saskatchewan 7 years, and then came to Winnipeg in 2000. But then in 2015, I really seriously then came back to art and focused and painted more than ever. Especially in 2018, I think, that's when I really focused and wanted to be exposed here in the city and elsewhere. In 2020, my father was ill and I had to actually fly back home, and I was over there. So then when I came back 2 weeks of quarantine, I did this painting. So it was like I really felt lonely because nobody came to airport to pick me up. And, you know, I paid taxi, lived by myself for 2 weeks. And I really did feel lonely because I do have, you know, family here. So kind of like pictures are repeating. Like in life, repetition comes all the time, and it's beautiful pictures. Sometimes not as beautiful, but still they repeat, and you know that's how I saw this painting, and it came really to me as that idea. People, and you know, we repeat, we get bored, and you know, but everybody has their own story. This one is called Empire, and it's just one of the wildlife that I'm amazed here living in Canada in general and in Manitoba. So many different kinds of birds and other animals, which I didn't bring all of my paintings, but this is one of the birds, blue jay, I guess. Yeah. So I'm just always inspired by birds and animals and nature in general.
My daughter is in graphic design at Red River, and one afternoon she said to me, "Mom, you should come and paint." And I hadn't painted or drawn since I was a teenager. So I sat down one night and I painted with her, and it just took off. I forgot how much I used to love to do that. I try to, if you look at all of my paintings, they're usually, I guess there is a little bit of a theme in that it's color and nature. So those are the two things that I draw from when I paint. I have to tell you a little something about the retreat that I like. In addition to it being photographed in the golden hour, so everything has an orangey yellowy hue to it, I find that really calming. As I was painting the background, there's a little something in the painting that just sort of organically popped out, and I went, you know what, I'm gonna kind of go with it. So it's kind of weird, but if you look in the center of the retreat, in the far background, you're gonna see a little object that doesn't really belong there. And I'm just gonna tell you what it is actually. It started off as an eye, so it almost looks like someone's watching you from across the lake. It's kind of a little creepy, but kind of cool at the same time. That was my first painting where I really used a lot of layers. Like the sunflower probably took 8 or 9 different shades of yellow in it, and it was layer upon layer. And that's where I realized that the more layers you put, the more realistic it looks. So that was a good training one. That was the first one where I did underpaintings. And the paint on that one is so thick you can't even remotely see the canvas anymore. And that's where I really learned that more is better.
We live very close to Lockport. It's been a fishing place like for hundreds of years, really. The pelicans are kind of something that holds it to its nature, to its place as fishing place, you know? So that's why I painted that. Like I say, the feeling, the internal part of a painting is how you kind of feel when you're sitting there watching those pelicans, you know, and kind of that kinship to the natural in amongst all the changes, you know, through hundreds of years. Yeah, there's roaring water and there's that, you know, constant, but there's also kind of a piece to it that when I go down to the locks, I feel.
My father was very outdoorsy, and so that's where I get the love of nature and wildlife. So I'm mostly a landscape and wildlife photographer. So that's where my love came from, was my father, because that's what we grew up with, you know, so. With the one of Hecla, I've always loved that old beat up pier, and a storm just finished blowing through, and we were just leaving, and it was calm, so the reflection was great and the clouds were great. I said I have to stop and take a picture of that old pier. So, and same with the other one. I mean, it was just a freshly fallen snow, and it was in October, and there was no wind, and it was so fresh and clean looking out.
My paintings are an extension of my personality or my interests. Still love doing hair. I'm still a hairstylist. I guess this collection is really stating my personality as a hairstylist and what I like to work with and what I think is beautiful. I think at this point I was trying to figure out the magic formula for skin tones. And over the course of my studies, there is no magic formula for skin tones because everybody's skin tones are different, and the light that shines from the light, or the quality of light, or the color of light always reflects in the face. I used a little more warm-ish tones, and so yeah, this was basically the hardest thing, was me trying to figure out how to get the skin tones and then how to make the curly hair. The other thing that I learned is when you take a reference photograph for models or for doing portraiture, if there's no shadows, the photographs or the painting can be very flat. So I had to add more shadows to this one. And in hair photography, you don't want any, so like you white out all the shadows because you don't want any of those shadows underneath the eyes to make them look older and whatnot. So I was choosing photographs that were probably something that I would choose for a photo contest in my hair competitions. but it wasn't as suitable or as easily reproducible on a canvas with paint. So what I learned out of this one is get some shadows so you can see the dimension in the face. I think this was the last one I did of this collection. I believe that everybody's creative, and I think that all we have to do is recognize it and let it come out.